it sure is a lot easier for all of us to reach our destination if we have clear goals that we'd like to achieve along the way. So as a financial advisor in today's video, I'd like to share with you 8 financial goals that I think are useful to hit by the time you're 60. And the first one is to know what your number is, what your retirement number is. It's not that you need to get there, but I think it's useful to have clarity on where you're striving to go. And so high level, easy way to get there is to look at what your expenses are going to be in retirement, and then to look at your sources of income, things like Social Security, pension, maybe real estate income, any sources of income that you have coming in. And ask yourself, is there a gap? And if there is a gap, then how are you going to fund that, and how much money, the number, do you need in order to fund that gap? So let's say that you're currently spending $100,000 a year. In retirement, you'd like to spend $75,000 a year, and you have $55,000 a year in income coming in. Just giving myself easy math. So the gap between $75,000 of expenses and $55,000 of income is $20,000. And using the 4% rule, if you have a portfolio value of $500,000, there's a good chance that that will be able to provide a $20,000 a year income in retirement for you. So that's first, to know the number. Now, you don't want to retire using the 4% rule in a benchmark, but as you're striving to get a feel for what ballpark do you need to be in, it's a good way to get started. So that's the first thing, is to understand what your numbers are. The second is to have an idea, this is going to surprise you, believe it or not, of what your taxes are going to be in retirement. And oftentimes, people underestimate this, but our taxes can be one of our largest expenses. And the reason I say this is, depending on your tax situation, you may want to have money in different types of buckets that are taxed differently. And those buckets are a regular IRA or a regular 401k, a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k, and then a taxable account. So as you're saving your money, I mentioned earlier the $500,000 to get $20,000 a year of income. Well, $500,000 in a Roth IRA is a lot more valuable to you than $500,000 in a regular IRA. And why is that? It's because with a regular IRA, it becomes ordinary income, as it becomes taxable income as you pull money out of a regular IRA. With a Roth IRA, you did not get the tax break on the way in, but as you take money out, if you are with all the comply with all the regulations, that money is not taxable. So having an idea of what your taxes are going to be in retirement, and then building towards that with that knowledge. Now, how do you get a feel for what your taxes are going to be in retirement? I think it makes sense to visit with an accountant or a fiduciary financial planner and have them give you a feel of, what would be the right amounts. Let's say the $500,000 the right number. How should that be broken out? Remember Stephen Covey of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? He says, begin with the end in mind. And when it comes to saving, the beginning with the end in mind is not just how much money you want, but which buckets you want that to be in. Okay, the next one is your investment strategy. The third financial goal is to have a feel for what your investment strategy is going to be. And what I mean by that is your portfolio allocation. What percent of your portfolio is going to be in stocks and bonds, both now as you're building your account, but also when you're in retirement. What asset allocation makes sense? Now, I want to caution you, because the pain of loss of the stock market going down, even if you've been able to withstand that in the past, in past market corrections when the market goes down 20, 30, 40% or more, even though you may have been able to stay the course in the past, it doesn't mean that in retirement you'll be able to do the same thing. And the reason is the market downturns my experience as a financial advisor, tends to feel a lot more painful to people once they're retired. And one of the main reasons for that is when you're still working, if the stock market goes down, many people will view that as an opportunity. They're still making money, they're still adding to their savings, so they can take advantage of the lower prices. But once you retire, you're not putting new money into your nest egg anymore. And so it's harder to take advantage of that. Yes, you could have some cash in your portfolio set aside just for those market downturns. And mea culpa, I do that myself. But it's a small amount, and it's really more than anything else just for the mental piece, so I can view a downturn as an opportunity. I know mathematically I'm probably much better off just leaving that money and not having a cash buffer. But I like to have that cash buffer for two reasons. One, so I can look at the pain of loss differently when the stock market goes down. And two, so that I can avoid being a forced seller in a down market. And the way people typically become forced sellers in a down market is they need the money either to repay debt or to pay for their living expenses, or, and more common for retirees, is that the stock market goes through a correction, and what used to be worrying, slight worrying, you'd prefer the market be up than down, but you were still able to get a good night's sleep. Worrying amplifies and becomes angst. It becomes top of mind all of the time, and to the point where you can't sleep, and you just want the pain to stop. So the third one is having your investment strategy. Let's keep going. The next one, number 4, is having a plan for your stay healthy and or get healthy plan. And admittedly, this is not a financial goal, but I think health is much more important than our wealth. So the reality is all of us at work are probably shouldering more stress than what we know. It's kind of that frog in the warm water where, you know, the frog stays in the water as the water temperature starts to increase until the point where it's actually boiling. And the frog stays in because the temperature increased over time. It's the same thing with us. The pressures in our job increased over 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And even if you're in a job where you say, you know what, there's not that much stress, the reality is a lot of retirees say, I didn't realize how much stress I was under when I was working. And so it can be a big relief to finally get that off of your shoulders. So, and it's an opportunity for all of us to get healthy if we're not healthy, and to stay healthy. Becomes work as we get older to get healthy and to stay healthy. Okay, the next one, number 5, I mentioned the stay healthy plan. Number 5 is to stay wealthy. And the nice thing about saving money for retirement is you only need to get wealthy once. You only need to hit your number once. And once you do, job number 1 becomes not protecting that nest egg, right? Not losing that, not taking any risks that you don't need to, because you've already achieved your number. So it's stewarding that nest egg, and just thinking through what are the things that could put my nest egg at risk. And typically those have to do with some liabilities. In the U.S., probably the most common is healthcare expenses. So making sure you've got the right healthcare insurance to provide for healthcare needs, so that you don't become one of those people, unfortunately, in the United States, where they become bankrupt because of healthcare costs. The next one is liability insurance. You know, if you got in a car accident, if somebody came to your house for dinner and tripped on the way out to their car, do you have liability insurance? Something like that would be covered by an umbrella policy. I'm not an insurance person. I'm not licensed to sell insurance. I don't want to be licensed to sell insurance, but I do want to put this on your radar screen. So liability insurance, do you have that? And then asset insurance, which for most of us is going to be our home. And unfortunately, the cost of property insurance continues to go up, but for many of us, that's our largest expense. So do we have the right property insurance? Oftentimes people are underinsured from a property insurance standpoint because the cost of real estate has gone up. The cost to replace real estate, let's say your house got in a fire, the cost to replace and rebuild your house is more than it was when you first got your plan, and your plan may or may not have kept up with that. Okay, number 7, and now we're getting more into the qualitative things. Number 7 is a relationship plan. Having a plan in place for, many of us have some of our strongest relationships are with people at work. Most of us, while we're working, likely spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our friends and our family. And unfortunately, we're going to lose some of those friendships along the way at work, just because we're not going to have that proximity. We're not going to have the daily interaction with them. So, thinking through, how are you going to make new friends? What activities do you like doing? And starting to build up that network, that base of friends outside of work. And then number 8 is having a purpose. And it's a purpose plan. Having a plan for what's your new purpose in retirement going to be. Many of us, a big part of our identity and our purpose is through work. And when retirees are unhappy, typically there's 4 phases to retirement, and the last phase is transitioning into your new life. But typically when people have difficulty with that last phase, it tends to be with purpose. What's their purpose in life? What are they excited to get up and do in the morning? And so that's one of the things. By the time you're 60, think about putting together a plan. Think about trying different things out. What is your purpose outside of work? And the sooner we can start building that up and nurturing that, the better. And related to that is a video that I did recently, which talks about enjoying your 50s and 60s along the way, so that we're not all waiting to get to retirement, but we enjoy our 50s and 60s along the way. It talks about things like building friendships, purpose, things like that. If you enjoyed this video, I know you'll enjoy that one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.